Your next speaker, along with Dr. Napoleon Hill, created the PMA Science of Success. And today, your next speaker will show you evidence that he is dedicated to the perpetuation of the PMA philosophy. Success Unlimited magazine, co-founded by Napoleon Hill and his manager, W. Clement Stone, is a publication which has influenced the lives of countless thousands. In 1922, W. Clement Stone, with $100 he had saved, invested in his own one-man insurance agency from which the combined group of companies grew. Today, Combined Insurance Company of America and its subsidiaries comprise a multi-million-dollar international insurance empire. Mr. Stone is chairman of the board of directors or president of many corporations and institutions. A noteworthy point, the W. Clement and Jesse V. Stone Foundation, with the personal gifts of the founders, is reputed to have made grants in the neighborhood of $100 million. Mr. Stone is noted for giving more of his personal time to worthy causes than to his own business corporations. For years, he's been on the executive committee of the Boys Club of America and president or chairman of the Boys Clubs of Chicago. A director of the Illinois Masonic Hospital, chairman of the Institutes of Religion and Health, chairman of the Religious Heritage of America, and as an author and lecturer has motivated countless thousands of persons throughout the world to motivate themselves to high achievement, which has brought him many honorary doctorates from universities and colleges. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Minnesota welcome to Mr. W. Clement Stone.
I feel very humble with an introduction like that because every word is so true. Well, we'll try a little experiment. I'm going to ask a question. To that question, there's only one answer. I'm going to ask you, how's your PMA? That's a positive mental attitude. Wait a minute. There's only one answer, and the answer is terrific. How is your PMA? Not good enough. Please rise, because I only have a short time. Come on, let's all stand. Let's put our heart into this thing. Okay. How is your PMA? Terrific! All right, keep standing. When Miss Stone and I landed in Hawaii when it was a territory, it was the last stop on a trip around the Pacific, a lecture tour. We fell in love with the island. We entered our company. We hired Jerry Assam, a native, as our sales manager. Jerry read our books. In the morning when he'd shave himself, he'd say to himself, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. Someone would meet him on the street, one of his friends, and Jerry, how do you feel? You'd say, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. I'm going to ask you how you feel. Now the words are, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. I'll try it again. I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. How do you feel? I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. Now there's a lady up on that top row, didn't say a word. We have to start all over again, so let's get into it, all of us. How do you feel? I feel healthy. I feel happy. I feel terrific. And you do, so you can be seated. You've just seen a demonstration of suggestion and self-suggestion. And in self-help books, based on the functioning of the human mind, these are very important factors. If you ever feel low, you really feel low, just say to yourself, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. You know what will happen? You'll feel healthy, you'll feel happy, you'll feel terrific. Try it sometime. I was very fortunate in being exposed to my first modern self-help action book at the age of 16. Subsequently, at the same age, 16, I started to sell insurance. What a thrill it is to realize the power of your mind. The computer was designed from the brain and the nervous system. We train persons how to use the computer. Billions of dollars over the years in the manufacturing, developing programs. But we don't train our students on how to use the human computer, the brain and the nervous system, when it comes to tapping the power within, the subconscious. And yet it's easy to teach and easy to learn. I'm referring to the passions, emotions, feelings, instincts, moods, tendencies, how to form habits, how to eliminate undesirable habits, how to set goals, how to set high goals, and how to achieve them. Now, the value of this meeting here today is that you are exposed to individuals who have proved in their own lives and affecting the lives of others that an individual can change if he'll pay the price. Now, most persons won't pay the price to succeed or to achieve high goals. They won't engage in thinking time, planning time, study time with regularity. By regularity, I would suggest each day, even if it's only 15 minutes. By study, I mean that one analyze. First, think in terms of yourself. Write down goals, things you'd like to achieve. And every day, inspect. But in your thinking time, decide how you're going to achieve them. Now, in referring to my own works, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, co-authored by Dr. Napoleon Hill and me, the book is based on the concept that what the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve for those who have a positive mental attitude. Whether it's sending 3 men into space, 2 land on the moon, all 3 return, or whether it is acquiring a fortune, or whether it is becoming an achiever, whether it's in sports, whether it's in one's business, whether it's sales, whether it's a teacher, or whether it become a good parent. It's also based on the concept that with every adversity, there's a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit for those who have a positive mental attitude. Now, if any of you have problems, boy, are you lucky, because today you can learn how to turn that disadvantage into an advantage. I would urge you to go to the library or get a book where you can find out for yourself or listen to a tape. And we have many of them here today. The other book I'm referring to is The Success System That Never Fails. That's based on the concept that there are 3 ingredients that are absolutely imperative for continuous success in any human activity. One is the necessary activity knowledge, the how-to, whether it's selling, whether it's playing golf, whether it's teaching, or whatever it may be. The other is know-how, the second, specifically following the right formula to get the right results consistently. And third, the most important, inspiration to action. How do I motivate myself at will? How do I motivate others? Now, you may know what to do, you may know how to do it, but you may not feel like doing it. Now, let me give you an illustration because we referred to suggestion. Is there anyone here that procrastinates, puts things off? Raise your hands. Okay. Here's proof positive that you can cure yourself. All you have to do is to memorize 3 words. For a purpose. The 3 words are, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. Repeat 50 or 100 times in the morning, 50 or 100 times at night with enthusiasm to indelibly imprint the do it now concept in your subconscious mind for the purpose of having it flash to the conscious mind in time of need. But when it does get into action, it's okay for the book to be on the floor, but if it flashes in my mind, pick it up, do it now. I pick it up to start a habit. Now you say that's a very simple thing. All universal laws are simple. In Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, I tell how I acquired a company with $1,600,000 in liquid assets and bought it with the seller's own money. Now that's a nice way to buy a company. By responding to the self-suggestion that I had memorized for a purpose, success is achieved by those who try. That appeals to reason. Where there's nothing to lose by trying and a great deal to gain if successful, by all means try. That appeals to reason. Do it now. I grabbed the phone, made the telephone call, and the story is in Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude. In my business, I'm so fortunate in our company. We've been so lucky. For example, in '68, we bought a casualty company. We paid, I believe it was around $4 million in issuing combined shares. We bought their company, Commerce and Industry, as I recall, for $6 a share. We lost $500,000 in 90 days. Terrific. We had a problem. The book says you have a problem, that's good. I called our people together, said, look, we've got a problem. Let's use some PMA. Make a long story short, we merged it into the American Home Insurance Company. That's owned by AIG, American International Group. We received the $4 million in shares. In 3 years, we showed a profit of some $20 million. With the market down, it now amounts to about $17 million. What I'm trying to say is, with every adversity, there's a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. You may, for example, experience something. It may be a blessing in disguise. PMA, a positive mental attitude. What is the positive mental attitude? It's a right mental attitude. And what is the right mental attitude? In America, in one area we know, because our customs, our laws, our traditions are based on the tenets of the Judeo-Christian faith. The other concept is the aim high concept, that you can achieve anything in life you desire that doesn't violate the laws of God or the rights of your fellow man. Now, in view of the fact when questions are asked, many principles are brought out, I will answer the questions, and if I think it proper at the end, I'll make a statement or two maybe to clarify something. Okay, let's go.
The first question. Mr. Stone, you hear so much in religion about the meek shall inherit the earth. Does this contradict or coincide with the principles of PMA?
The English language is one where one word has many, many meanings. And in answer to your question, I definitely say no. The person who thinks, the person who learns how to motivate others at will, how to motivate himself at will, there's no conflict. And it all depends on your concept of the definition of the word meek. Meek does not necessarily always mean humble. Meek does not necessarily mean that you let people impose upon you in a way that's harmful to you or to others. Okay.
Next question. Here's one you will enjoy, Mr. Stone. It's not too personal. How much money do you make per year?
Well, let me tell you a story. I read a book. I didn't tell anyone what my reaction was until the last few years. The Magnificent Obsession by Lloyd C. Douglas. I developed a magnificent obsession for me. All I want to do is change the world. Make it a better world for this and future generations. Fortunately, it is being done. Fortunately, the barrier has been broken in the school systems. Universities, colleges, high schools, elementary schools are now teaching in many parts of the country the art of motivation with PMA. Fortunately, every boys club connected with the Boys Clubs of America, the professional director will be taught the art of motivation with PMA. Fortunately, 90 countries, Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Australia, there are 90 nations where in the school systems the professors and teachers are being taught the art of motivation with PMA. Fortunately, in our penal systems throughout the United States and other parts of the world, we graduate some 10,000 of those incarcerated. We've reduced recidivism down to 15%. That means for every 100 men released, 85 stay out. Cook County, Chicago, where I come from, for every 100 men released, 87 come back. State of Illinois, for every 100 men released who are felons, 87 come back. I need millions, so I make millions, and I intend to make more millions. Next.
Mr. Stone, we have discussed the frustrations of those people in life today who want to arrive without having made the trip. You talk about the importance of discipline, so I think this next question is perfect. Is it possible to really have goals without writing them down and committing to them?
Well, anything is possible. Any student of semantics knows that. And it certainly is possible to have goals without writing them down. And what was the second part?
Can you accomplish them without truly committing to them?
It all depends on the definition of committing to them. Unless you're serious, and unless you keep them before you, unless you definitely keep them on your mind, have a desire, a burning desire, the chances of fulfillment are relatively slim, because through the use of your mind power, you can have the help of powers known and unknown. And the powers unknown are often more numerous than the known powers. One of the great powers, in fact, man's greatest power, lies in the power of prayer. Truth will be truth, regardless of anyone's ignorance or refusal to believe. The value of writing down your goals and the value of inspecting them is that you keep them before you and you think in terms of how you can reach them. Now, if you have a New Year's resolution, or you're an alcoholic and you want to cure yourself, and you decided definitely you're going to make that change, unless you inspect it day by day, the chances are you'd fail. Next, please.
Next question. Mr. Stone, what is your definition of luck, and how much of it do you need to be successful?
I'm a great believer in luck. I believe you make your own luck. I believe that a person that leads or tries to, the important thing is trying to. The essence of perfection is never reached, but one becomes more perfect by striving. So that on this matter of luck, for those of us who use our mind power, we bring about the good fortune. And we don't always know how the Lord fulfills. For example, I'm surprised that none of the reporters here asked me about Nixon or Watergate. Nixon will go down as one of the greatest of presidents. Why? Because historically what happens in a leader's life, the head of state, is important. And not only in his case for what happened in China and Russia and here domestically on stopping the troubles we had on the campuses, but Watergate. Johnson did it, Kennedy did it, but Nixon was lucky. He'll go down in history by virtue of the fact that because of Watergate, American men and women who would never think of running for public office will run today. Plus the fact that we as people are more careful to think about the personal character of our candidates. Plus the fact that in business and in school life, there are strong movements to develop character. It would never have happened without Watergate. Next.
Next, Mr. Stone, when you were on the firing line selling, what techniques did you find were most effective at getting the order?
Most effective at what, sir?
At getting the order, closing the sale.
My system is based on a scientific approach, based on the functioning of the human mind. If I want to sell you an accent policy, you're sold, I determine it. Because I know how the mind functions. But if you want a yes answer, make a positive statement and ask an affirmative question, you get a yes answer. This is a nice tie, isn't it? It's too easy to say yes than to say no. If you want a no answer, you make a negative statement and ask a question. Such as, you're selling to women. You might say many companies don't sell income protection to women, except at a very high rate. They quit work. Often they have to give up their coverage because they have no income. You have no accident income protection, have you? Generally, you get a no answer. But if you want to close the sale, ask for it. Now, I have 3 closes that I use. One is a positive statement, an affirmative question. So if you don't mind, I'd like to write it for you also, if I may. May I? May I do that for you? What are you going to say? Yes, of course. You say no, it doesn't make any difference because I'll ask you a question, come around and have a punch close. Do you see what I mean? You say yes. May I write it for you then? And if that doesn't work, I'll ask another question and tactfully use an assumptive close. Okay?
All right, the next question. How does positive thinking fit in with the rather negative Peter principle, or the fact that everyone rises to their level of incompetence?
Well, my thinking is on the positive. I've been able to reach down in the gutter and lift men to great heights. I've been able to help those who are thinking of suicide, and I can give you interesting stories of people you know. Save their lives, become decent, fine citizens. No, it is hardly conceivable that anyone can reach his maximum power, because the more you use the power of your mind constructively, it generates additional power.
Okay, next, Mr. Stone. What is the single most important piece of advice you would give from your experience to a young person who aspires to success and wealth similar to your own?
Well, first of all, it depends on the individual. I think it's so unfortunate that many of our young people are not exposed to a good church environment, to a church environment. Their parents don't go, they don't go. But excluding that, I would say it is important to read, understand, comprehend a modern inspirational self-help action book. It's only the American authors of this century that have developed this type of literature, beginning with Orson Swett Marden in the early part of the century. However, under our school system, the individual isn't taught how to apply the principles. So I would urge the individual above everything else, in reading an inspirational self-help action book or listening to a tape, that the individual try to understand, comprehend what the principle might be, and then ask a question. So what? What does it mean to me? How could I use it? A book for a teenager like I Dare You by William Danforth, one of the great books of our time in motivating youngsters, teenagers, to become decent, fine citizens. Okay.
Someone once said that leadership is the art of leading people astray with confidence. Now, Mr. Stone, we know that you've established yourself as a leader in dozens of different areas, so this question would be most appropriate. I'm close to 45 years of age, but not finding fulfillment in what I'm doing. Please tell me how I can truly discover and do what is most fulfilling for me and something which I can get excitement and enthusiasm from.
Well, if I were in personal conversation with him, I'd give him success through a positive mental attitude. But specifically, I would ask the individual what he'd like to do. Now, if you do that which you like to do that comes naturally, and then have employment, your work becomes fun. Many persons don't realize that in the sales field they could make a fortune, especially if they line up with a company that has a good training program. And the reason for that is nature's law, that one is timid or afraid of a new environment or do something new. Where the truth of the matter is anyone can sell. And if they're fortunate enough because of necessity, man or woman, some of the best salespersons are a widow with 2 or 3 children, only prays for a chance to make an honest livelihood, a large income for her children. So I would say, number one, try to do that which comes naturally. Number two, if the individual doesn't know, is to take one of the many tests that would indicate scientifically the many things that could be done.
All right, next, Mr. Stone. In all of your philanthropy, what would be your greatest satisfaction experienced?
Well, I think perhaps even though I know I affected the lives of many thousands, what a thrill it is, or it was, when a doctor in Italy, when they couldn't get medications because the aftermath of the war, and I sent them anyway, and he told how these medications saved his daughter's life, the saving of human life. On the other hand, what a thrill it is when you walk on the street and an ex-con meets you and almost cries and says, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. And what a thrilling thing it is when a man or a woman comes and tells about a personal problem. I don't go anywhere in the United States or any part of the world, but 6 persons on an average will tell me a story of how one of the books or one of the tapes or a lecture or video or a movie changed the course of their lives. It's pretty hard to set just one, but I would say the saving of a human life, for if we're talking about an individual, would be that one.
Next. Have you ever, or do you now, find it virtually impossible to overcome down periods?
Well, with every adversity, there's a seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, so I welcome it. Unfortunately, Mrs. Stone and I, when we were over in Africa this summer, she got a fever. And it's taking a long time to get over it. But what a wonderful thing it is in one respect, because my hours previously were from 8 in the morning to 11:30 at night. That's pretty hard on a wife. Now what a thrill it is to be able to give her my personal attention. The reason I get an early plane is so I can have dinner with her at night. Also, it gives me a chance to thank God how grateful I am to have a wife who's been so thoughtful. It's pretty hard on a woman, where a man works the hours I've worked in the past. So therefore, if I were low, let's say, as some people are, they don't feel good, I'd say I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel terrific. I know that any problem can be solved intelligently. And I have, and I'm not ashamed of it, a habit. I don't do anything worthwhile with asking for guidance. I pray that in this audience today, there would be someone who was ready, someone who was listening, someone who would go away and their lives would be changed for the better. Next, please.
Speaking of how hard you've worked, Mr. Stone, you reputedly once had a goal of making $1 million a day. Have you ever accomplished this?
Well, let me put it this way. When the market was up, the family wealth was over $450 million.
Okay, how does a person's relationship with God affect his level of motivation?
I don't believe there's any doubt whatsoever that those who are striving to develop the good life that is intended by the authors of the Bible, their Sunday school, or their temple, I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever. I think that the individual, however, who is really grateful, are many persons who say their prayers of thanks at mealtime, morning and the night. It seems to me that if they're really thankful, they should make a step forward. They should share their blessings and help other God's children who are less fortunate. I think one of the unfortunate things about our period here, the last many years, is that our youth have not been exposed to a strong religious education. But the tide has changed, not only on the university campuses, but actually throughout the world. And there are many movements that are coming forward, and youth, I think, have a wonderful future ahead of them.
This question is rather different. Mr. Stone, do you believe anything can be accomplished through positive thinking? I think any philosophy that doesn't take into account physical or other limitations is unrealistic. For example, I have doubts about my ability to jump over the Empire State Building.
Well, first of all, you have to use common sense. Common sense only comes with experience. But if the person wants to rise up above and over the Empire State Building, you can do it very easily. You can hire a helicopter. You know, when it came to, if we weren't lucky with the Sputnik 1, Congress, in all probability, would have cut off our spending money for space. Now, it would be inconceivable to many of us that when President Kennedy used the suggestion, in this decade we will have Americans land on the moon, many didn't think it possible. And I'll let you into a secret. The folks at NASA had their doubts. But the value of PMA is that when you have a goal, it doesn't make any difference how high that goal is. What the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve. So we did land men on the space. Now, as far as the Empire State Building, it would be illogical for anyone to think they could do it. And keep in mind that the formula is what the mind of man can conceive and believe. And that is the secret, is the belief. If you believe you can, you can. We motivate our salesmen, for example, to sell a volume of business that would be improbable to some other organization. Why? Because they believe they can do it. And the reason they believe it is because we prove it to them. Okay?
All right, next. What one or two books or cassettes on self-discipline and effective selling do you recommend?
Well, I would certainly recommend that an individual go to his Bible and then read what I call a modern self-help book so that he can interpret it in a way that could be useful. Now, I would suggest any one of the books that our speakers here have authored. The book that has motivated more persons to achieve success in their careers or the acquisition of wealth that was written in this century is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I managed Hill for a period of 10 years, subsequent to reading the book. I certainly would recommend my own books, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, The Success System That Never Fails. However, many persons have been helped. And in back of my books, I recommend many self-help books which were written previous to the time that these books came out some years ago. But Maxwell Maltz with his great book, there's many, many others. So that I think if you look on the jacket, if you go through a bookstore, look at on the jacket of the cover of some of these books, you might get a feel or browse through it. But here's something that happens. When a person once gets the feel of an inspirational self-help action book, the trend is to read other books. So you can select almost any book that has proved successful in changing the lives of people in the past.
And finally, our last question, Mr. Stone, and if after answering this one you would give us your concluding remarks, what one basic principle of success do you feel is most important to a person?
Well, one most basic principle that's important is for you, the individual, to realize that you are an important person, that you have power. You may not know how to use it, but you've got it. Now, if you had a camera that takes perfect pictures, and you loan that camera to someone, and all the pictures came out imperfectly, it's not the fault of the camera. And so it is with the brain and the nervous system. Every living person, whether born in Africa or Asia or North or South America or Australia, has a brain and a nervous system. So number one, I would urge the individual to recognize that he's important, not to worry about the past, and to read one of the recommended inspirational self-help action books and see for himself how he can use that power. And I'm referring to both men and women as well as our teenagers and even younger. A book like the one I mentioned, I Dare You by William Danforth, is particularly fine for young boys and young girls. So in closing, let me say this. You've been here a long time. You've got some terrific talks coming up, but I'll let you in on a secret. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time unless you're ready. You're wasting your time unless you decide that you're going to help the most important living person in the future by engaging in thinking time, planning time. I'm referring to you. You're the most important person. And the way we evaluate what happens at a meeting like this is what happens to you. Now, having written and studied in the realm of psychic phenomena, and having studied brain waves, I'm very sensitive to audiences. And I feel very strongly, that among you, there are those who are ready, who have and will listen, and who will follow through with action. I thank you.
W. Clement Stone, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Stone.